Hello, and welcome to As Built, the podcast from Graphic Machine about architecture firms, buildings, and how both get built. I'm your co-host, Patience Jones. With me, as always, is
Brian Jones,
your other co-host. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are talking about AI updates to discoverability. That's a mouthful. So, what do we mean by that?
So there have been a lot of changes over the last year. You may have heard somebody mention AI, I'm sure 400,000 times. And now you're wondering, what do I need to do about that? Or does it even matter? The answer in short is yes, it matters. And here's an update. So in no particular order, the way that content is being collected online is changing a bit. And so part of that is through AI tools that are going through websites and scraping information and pulling it together to generate answers. And in particular, Google is rolling out and then not rolling out and then rolling out again updates to its search algorithm to help people make use of this sort of generative technology.
So a little bit of catch up here for anybody that is, for their own good, not spending a lot of time mired in the muck of AI development. So by the time this gets released, let's see, a couple of weeks ago, Google started rolling out in earnest an update to how search engine results are displayed. Previously, if you were to Google something, your results that came back would be a list of websites with ads at the top. Depending on what you were looking for, there might be pictures at the top or videos or recipes, but it was primarily websites that you could go to. Recently, Google updated that and started rolling out an update where the first result that you will see is an AI summary of information that is found from websites across the web. Whatever websites AI thinks have valuable information, it pulls that information in and it crafts this summary, and it essentially gives you, quote unquote, the answer to what you're looking for. And then below that summary, you see the paid ads and the images and the organic sites. This rollout didn't go as well as Google had hoped because AI doesn't yet have the ability to distinguish between I want to say legitimate, but I feel like that's so overused, a site with good, factually correct information and a site like The Onion or jokes that people make in Reddit forums. AI was just like, okay, all information on the internet is equally valid, and I can pull from anywhere and create these answers. So some of the examples you may have seen in news articles were like, there was an Onion article from years ago that said some doctor was advising people to eat 2 to 3 rocks a day. And that ended up as an AI summary for like, what should I do to maintain my health? Eat 2 to 3 rocks. So it was yesterday in recording time. It'll be a few weeks past by the time this gets out. Google started unrolling back that update so that fewer people are having access to it.
Yeah, fewer sites will be covered by it for the short term, but like this isn't going away. This is the future of where search is headed. So it's important to, regardless of how good this particular rollout, this is going to become part of the conversation going forward for sure.
So this is the backdrop against which we are talking about discoverability. How do you get your firm discovered? If AI is a new audience that you want it to learn things about your firm because you want it to tell people about your firm or your products or your services, how do you do that?
Well, I think first of all, we have to think about discoverability as a spectrum of things that you are up to in your firm. One of them might be what kind of press mentions that your firm gets. That's a bucket. Another is like how available through search is your firm, and what kind of a social practice from social media does your firm use and have in place. And now this new bucket is really like what content is accessible to AI, and what kind of a picture does it paint about your firm, and what kinds of questions does it answer. So those are kind of the four, to my mind, the four buckets of discoverability that are in play at the moment. How do you think that changes how people think about their marketing content and their marketing efforts?
It has to. I mean, we'll start with that. I think it's not that you're now going to be forgetting about the audiences that you have. And we've said for a long time, we collectively, Graphic Machine and marketers in general have said Google is its own audience. When you think about your audiences, it's who you're selling to, who you're trying to hire, and Google. Now there's a fourth audience that you have to also think about while not pulling back on any of the things that make you successful with those other three audiences. So you have to start thinking about, how do we present content in a way that AI understands it without alienating our human and Google organic search audience? That can be really hard because AI is advanced in some ways and not yet in others. It's literal. It doesn't make, yet that we know of, it doesn't make assumptions about connections between things. It does not understand sarcasm or irony or colloquialisms. So the way that you would explain your product or service in a way that contextualizes it for AI, if you were to do that for a human person, if you were trying to explain to a developer how you do a project and you used your AI version, they would probably think, do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I'm new here? But you kind of have to explain it that way for AI because AI is new here for the time being.
So it gets me thinking about the idea of how you create from a concept something that's appealing to AI, which is, yes, you want to describe your basic services and you want to make sure that there's a robust ability to understand what it is that you do. But what it cares even more about is what problems that you solve. So thinking about the particular things that you've solved for your clients or that you can solve for clients, and making sure that's accounted for in some way in the content that you write about your firm and the things that you talk about your firm, really important.
I think that's a great point because for right now, for this current iteration of AI search bot or whatever you want to call it, it is concerned with answering the questions that people put into search. And this has been true of organic search engine optimization for years, but it's really heightened, I think, with this introduction of AI. Most people don't tend to go in and Google something like, what awards did X architecture firm receive last year? They are looking for things like, who did the such and such project, or who can develop a affordable housing project on a former brownfield site, or any number of other
In the weeds.
solution focused in the weeds queries. That's what AI is looking to solve. So AI may not care as much for the moment about your publications and your certifications and your awards, and you still have to have those on your site, and you should, you've earned them. But you have to feed the machine a little bit and explain how what you do solves problems. Who is it solving problems for? What kind of problems? What do those solutions look like? And spell it out. FAQs on a website can be a great place for AI to pick up all kinds of important, relevant information, even if it's the same information that's contained throughout the rest of your site. It's just presented differently and maybe with a little more context than you would have for a more educated human consumer.
And I think that's a great next question, is like, why is context even more important now? And that is that it gets to the core of how AI will understand what it is that you're up to. If you are if you have a picture of a project, it's not much to latch on to. But if it has a picture with a description of what the problem solved, that's the context that's necessary. And in a way, it's getting us to show our work again, which is something that sometimes with design firms' websites and certain types of materials, you want to not show your work because it feels like it's overwhelming. But it's really important and it helps people understand what it is that they're looking at. So you're kind of doing a great by going further into this direction, you're actually servicing your human audience even better, even if it feels a little extreme.
Yes. Yeah. I think it poses an interesting, I don't know, maybe a thought experiment, because the there could be a temptation now, I think, to say, well, I have to write something, so I'll just have AI do it. And then let's say you do that and you don't rewrite it and you don't edit it and you don't put any of yourself into it. You just take what AI generates and you put it on your website. Then that's what AI draws from to create its summary of your firm, which means that the next time you ask AI to create content, it's going back to what it created for you originally, because that's what it finds online.
Mm-hmm.
And you create this recursive loop / black hole where eventually we will only have like one piece of information on the internet. So I think it's important to think about the larger picture of what kinds of content we're creating, not just now for the short term, but what are we feeding this? What is going to be regurgitated in some future use that will be good or not so good or not so accurate?
I mean, I think that's an excellent point that original content is still a key component to your success. And it is a key component to being discovered because it will be given a higher value for any online because it's unique and it's something that's a new perspective that it doesn't have. And it may piece it together with other things, but it's what will get your awareness of your firm to be more likely and to be found in new and unique ways. And keep in mind, back to the top of the show, this is just one of many buckets that you have to make sure that you're nurturing and that are part of your overall strategy. And I think sometimes it can be, we've seen those firms that are solely focused on their press and they neglect everything else. And then there's not this robust ability to attract talent or attract clients. And it requires kind of an effort across the board here. So, not everything, but it's definitely part of what you need to be preparing for and having as part of your effort at this point.
I think that's a great point. And I think one of the most overlooked ways to become more discoverable is through your employees. Company social media accounts are great and necessary, but because of the way algorithms are written, they will never carry as much weight as posts from employees of your company. And the more employees you have who are posting interesting, relevant things on their respective social media platforms professionally, each one of their audiences is discovering your firm. And so encouraging that is really important. And if people are getting stuck, it's important to say, like, hey, do you need some help doing this? Or do you want some ideas? Or what's holding you back from doing this? You can't make people do it. That's a really important point. But you want to help encourage them to do it because they're such great ambassadors. And they're one of the most important ways that your firm can be discovered by people who don't already know about it.
And it's really helpful to make an opportunity for questions to be asked about how they can improve upon that sharing. Because I think a lot of times the inertia to doing anything is a fear of being wrong. And I think that the more that you provide a supportive environment to get people to share that information, the more likely you are to have a successful outcome.
And to tie it back just very briefly to AI, it's important that your employees don't see posting on social media as like, well, this is a checklist thing that I have to do and I don't know what to say. So I'm just going to go to AI and I'm just going to have it write something for me and it will tell me what it thinks I should post. And then I'll put that out there. There are people who will say that's perfectly fine. That's a great approach. At least you're putting something out there. I have seen time and time again that quality is better than quantity.
Yep.
And if you are somebody who says, well, I'm doing a really good job at social media because I'm posting 7 times a week and I have AI write all my posts for me and I just put them out there, I question the value of what you're giving to other people, which is really supposed to be what this entire experiment is all about. I'm sharing my knowledge, my experience, my insights. If none of them are yours, then what are you doing? You're just like junking up the system
Yeah.
with white noise. So it's okay if you struggle to write. It's okay if you have an idea and you want AI to edit it for you or you're not sure how to say something. But I think whole cloth outsourcing your social presence to AI, it's just not going to do a lot for you.
Yeah. Not at this point in history, no.
No.
So let's talk about the big takeaways about AI and discoverability.
So AI is now your fourth audience, not the fourth estate, but definitely your fourth audience. And it's going to be really important to think about when you're thinking about all the different ways that your firm can be found to mentally account for AI as one of those ways and create and present content that makes it more likely that you'll be discovered in that vein as well as the other ones.
I think the other takeaway from my perspective is to nurture all aspects of your discoverability and not any one over the others. They're all pretty important. And it's something that you may err on the side of one and the other from time to time, but it's important to nurture them all.
Yeah. And if you are able to get a great client out of it or a great project out of it, doesn't matter which of those 4 ways it came in. It doesn't. And you're not really going to know which way it's going to come in until it does.
Yep.
So it is important. That's a really great point. Well, thank you for discovering us on this podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.